project was all about networking, and the client was Pam Engler, the Director of Outreach and Partnerships. And the students working on this project were Melissa Moa, Eva Poydras, and Steve Zanatti. So, team, it's yours.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Melissa Moa, and I was fortunate enough to work with Yvette and Steve. Steve, I think I'm hearing echo.
Okay, I'll turn mine off.
Okay. Okay, so our client was actually Lynn Perez, and she is the second down over here. And Carla was a great help, and we had many hangouts coincidentally with all of our partners. Steve and Yvette both live in LA, so I was able to go meet face to face with our client at NCUST. So who NCUST is? They are the National Center for Urban School Transformation, which is a small San Diego-based nonprofit. They work closely with urban district principals dedicated to creating truly outstanding schools. So they work with school districts, 4 school districts across the country, which are in Houston, Texas, Normandy Public Schools in Missouri, Phoenix Elementary School District in Arizona, and Seminole County Public Schools in Florida. So what NCUST does is their coaches work closely with these small groups of principals to help accelerate improvement in the student achievement. They really focus, they work with high achieving schools and low achieving schools to find a happy medium, to help the high achieving school, to learn from the high achieving schools in order to help the low performing schools achieve better student achievement. So NCUST initiatives are designed to build upon existing district programs, and they really focus to accelerate growth. So like I said, our client was Lynn Perez, and she is the Associate Director at NCUST. And NCUST really has 3 different parts. I know that another group was working with Dan Mascari for the National Symposium, where we were working directly with the A+ program. So the NCUST coaches, there's about 8 or 9 of them, and they travel to all the 4 different school districts and really work one-on-one with the principals. So NCUST came to us to assist in integrating useful computer applications to increase their communication in order to enhance their relationship with their close family of clients. So originally they had come to us requesting some type of platform where their clients could communicate with each other, possibly with a discussion board, visual communication, and along with this new platform, they wanted possible job aids. So the big idea was a platform, which once we realized that they already had a working website, was really hard for us to wrap our head around. So what we did was we sent out a Qualtrics survey to really dive deep and to figure out what these principals wanted. We were really focused on capability, confidence, experience, perception, and overall communication preference. So we sent it out to 25 coaches and principals in the Arizona and Seminole, Florida school districts. We had a big challenge when we only received 8 completed surveys out of 25. So we sent it out again, and we ended up getting 10 out of 25. So that was kind of a letdown, but through that we were still able to see what some of the coaches and some of the principals preferred in their communication. And some of them felt overall really comfortable with, just emailing and face-to-face. So not really a lot of them were eager and looking for big changes in the company. So through gap analysis, we determined that the platform was out of the question, and we needed to get rid of the whole platform idea. Again, they already had a working website, which we could utilize. So the Qualtrics survey really told us that most of them, if we were to introduce something new to them, they would definitely want job aids. So what we ended up determining were the use of Google tools to help them with their traveling time so that they could share multiple things without having to travel to Houston, to Missouri, to all these places every single week, where they could just use the Google tools like we use in school to help them. So we chose Google Circles, Google Hangout, Gmail, Google Docs, and Google Plus to implement, so that we could really focus on helping the company access free resources. We didn't have any budget, so we just went ahead and started implementing the Google tools through performance aids and training. And now Steve is going to be talking about the design and development.
Hi folks, this is Steve. When we just started a moment ago, the couple of the shares that I had going out weren't fully loaded, so that's what you're seeing here, kind of loading up on the left-hand side. So I'm going to talk about the team's work with the design, development, and implementation steps on this project. This was a rollout situation, as you've heard. We're introducing new online productivity tools for our stakeholders. I lost my place. Primarily to enhance their communication abilities with clients across the country. You saw the map a moment ago. Also to establish a focal point in sharing related content with their partners, some type of informational content communication hub. The stakeholders consisted of the NCUS staff and principals of the urban school districts across the country. Project began. Our target audience had a more broad focus. So if you look at that graphic, we were originally tasked with that entire group, Lynn and all the coaches and all the principals, and that narrowed quite a bit as we, as a project went forward. The project began, later we narrowed our focus to limit our project with the coaches. Finally, we focused on Lynn, the administrative leader at NCUST. The change of the audience did not affect our design of the performance aids. The PDFs were designed to be used for adult users of computers with moderate to high level of experience communicating. They could do email, they interface with the computer every day, so these weren't just totally native users. The change in audience target did change how we planned our face-to-face part. We thought that was going to be a bit more of our deliverable to our client, but because we discovered over time that we had only one major person kind of following along with us, that we had to focus on that person alone. So Melissa was our sole point person there, as she mentioned. She acted as the on-site trainer, facilitator for the meetings. And we found that bringing a full group of coaches together for these meetings just wasn't going to be possible. Next slide. So I'm not going to show you what we developed for the job aids for communicating, the Google communication tools that we brought to this group. Google tools were the best choice for a number of reasons, primarily cost, was already mentioned. The performance objective of the tutorials were that the coaches themselves and the coaches would later train the principals on creating an account in Google, to create a Google Plus account, to create circles relative to the NCUS A+ network. Learners would ultimately be able to invite others to hangouts and collaborate on documents and really integrate the online communication technology in a day-to-day. So I'm going to show you one of these really quick. And it's just going to play here. So all the job aids we produced are now hosted on the client's website. Although it was initially proposed to build an information and communication hub, such as some type of standalone website, we decided that the NCUS already had a really decent online presence. They have a website, they have a Facebook, they have a Twitter, and so they already had traffic there. And we thought that it would be best to use what they already had. And I'm seeing that Sarah mentioned one of the facial expressions. That's part of the strategy. That wasn't just me being goofy. Okay, it was a little bit me being goofy, but it was part of the strategy to gain interest, increase motivation. So we've chunked down all of these in similar ways. I'm going to stop this one and stop sharing. Show you the next one. So play this one. So you'll notice that we've chunked these in the same way. The screenshots are similar. Like I said before, we've incorporated this. We try to incorporate a sense of humor in this to lighten up the situation, to make it fun, and that's really important for these job aids. There were 6 job aids altogether, but across all of them, there's continuity, coloring, layout. It's to really lower the cognitive load of the learner once they go from in succession and sequence of these 6 job aids that we made for them. A familiarity with the content, and then embedded within these job aids. And every time I could, I tried to use content that was familiar and relevant to our client. And at the end of each job aid, there was a hyperlink to extended learning opportunities. We made screencasts that supported each one of these things. So if some learners preferred to print out these and have them next to them, this is what was reported to us. They wanted to have the job aid right next to them as they did it. Some of them just wanted to refer to a video and skip around. So I will stop that one. And it looks like I lost the, no, I didn't. Good. Let me close that one. Okay. So let me give you an example of the screencast we did really quick. This is a simulation of creating a Google Plus Hangout. Your first step is to log into your Google Plus account, and you can do that from your email or your Gmail account or directly from the Google Plus. So this is 2 minutes long. With extras. Too long to watch the whole thing. Actually, I've already edited it, but I can jump along it. It's essentially a screencast of our team doing a simulation of a Google Hangout, and us together looking at a document and kind of simulating what we want our so we're talking about a couple of documents here. The first one we're going to talk about is the NCUSD coach budget, and as soon as we're going a little further down here, so I'm showing how to join the Hangout, how to disconnect, how to bring up documents, how we all collaborate, and this was the performance goal for our client. So I'll stop sharing that. So then, aside from the job aids that we created, we did on-site and virtual training. We came together in a Hangout and we went over these tools. So I want to demonstrate to you some of the highlights of that, what was happening there. There's Lynn, not the best place to stop. So there's Lynn.
Hi.
All right, I'm clapping my hands for later. So I'm going to lower that volume down so while I talk here. So this is our client, Lynn. She's already had 4 previous face-to-face meetings at this point. So Melissa has been with her side by side, and she's done a hangout with her, with us at the same time, and we've done that training. So this is the first time she's actually on her own. You can see the guy walking back and forth back there is Dan, and so he was there to assist the first time. So she really hasn't got to the point where she can do this solo, and so needed more help here. As you saw, when she started, when she came on, we were really deliberate about our facial expressions, our feedback to her, super positive. Wanted to give reward, wanted to up her confidence, up her enjoyment of the situation. That was really important to us, that she got that experience. So then her next experience, she was a little bit farther along. We'll play that one. So here I'm waiting for the Hangout to start.
Okay, she's successful.
So I'll bring the volume down a bit while I talk. So Lynn's practiced inviting members from her circle. So she's got her Google Plus account, as does some other members of her of the network, but they're not there at the moment. She's practicing with a document that she's picked, so she's got some choice in there. It's a document that is relevant to her work and her other coaches. So what's happening here is she's showing us that she can do this, and she's planning on she's making plans on how she's going to implement this. And this is our goal too. We want our client to be self-sufficient with these tools, and she's going to be the key person to train the other coaches. If you remember that graphic back there a moment ago, train those other coaches to do what we showed her to do. So her confidence is way up. She didn't need any technical assistance from her office, and she began to hang out with extras all on her own, and is doing really well here. And I'll just get rid of that one and go to the last one. So this last video, real quick, is where Lynn is got her final performance with us. So it's myself, Melissa, Lynn, and another coach. And I'll lower the volume here so you won't hear it. But so she's demonstrating that she can bring someone in and repeating the same tasks as she's done in the previous video, but now this time she's brought in a coach, and hopefully, since this was back a few weeks ago, she's brought in some more coaches, and she's done the same thing, worked on documents, because she stated this was her plan. She's definitely confident with her skills, and she's essentially met our performance goal. And so now I'll stop sharing this, and go back to the PowerPoint and open that up again. And I should have brought you to here, face-to-face training. Love that graphic. This is the website that NCUST has. This is a screenshot of the NCUST website where they have posted all of our the job aids that we've got. So this is their informational hub, if you want to call it that. Our really was they didn't really need that. It wasn't a good idea to build another whole separate website wasn't something that their IT person didn't manage on a day-to-day, didn't have within his purvey. We just wanted to put it in their hands and let them make the best use of it instead of making something outside of it. Okay, so here is where Yvette is going to pick up.
Can you hear me? Great. My name is Yvette. I'm going to talk to you today about the evaluation plan we had. When it came time to address the evaluation phase of the NCUST project, the group made a decision to not design and distribute a survey, but instead we opted for face-to-face interviews and observations. The reason for this decision was that in the analysis phase, when we distributed a survey to collect data, we received little participation from the NCUST partners. But later during Hangout, the Hangout meeting we had with Lynn, we learned that the NCUST coaches traveled a lot during a certain time of the year. It just happened that their busy time ran right into our project timeline. This time, we would gather data as we conducted the training. The first time we implemented, the first tool that we implemented was the Gmail account. and the training was how to create a Gmail account. During this training, 7 coaches participated. Melissa was on site doing face-to-face training in the NCUS offices, while Steve and I were on Google Hangout giving instructions and answering questions. During the training, Melissa would assess the skill levels of the NCUS partners, while Steve and I would be on Google Hangout observing body language, facial expressions, and verbal cues. Um, After each training session, we interviewed the NCUS partners. We would ask for feedback on the training lesson and on the job aids. We wanted to know whether the job aids were helpful, was the training helpful, was it easy to understand the job aids, and if there was anything else that we could change. The feedback we received was always positive, but and both the feedback was positive on both the training and the job aids we designed and used in conjunction with the training. Because in most other training hangouts, Lynn was the only NCUS person attending the hangout and using the job aids, we distributed a separate final evaluation that was a little more formal. We emailed Lynn with questions, giving her a little bit of time to really think about the questions and to help us further evaluate, help further evaluate our overall performance. The questions that we asked were, what are your personal plans for implementing the Google tools that were practiced during our project? What strategies will you have to broaden the use of these tools with NCUS coaches and partner principals? How could the consultant team improve its performance during the different stages of the process? So it was 3 questions. Overall, we received overwhelming positive feedback from Lynn. Our client already had a plan of how to implement the use of the Google tools. She would start off having hangouts with just 7 coaches, get them comfortable with using the tool, and then host a bigger hangout meeting, which would include the principals. Lynn had one constructive feedback for us, which was when we were working, she wanted us to know that when we work with clients, we should not assume they know acronyms being used in the consultant profession. The example she gave us was when we used the word job aid in the beginning, she didn't know what that meant. Now I'm going to conclude things here. When our team entered the consulting relationship, several challenges took place. We presumed we understood the needs of the client based on the project proposal. NCUS began the process with a solution to their needs in mind. There were some communication gaps which caused confusion between the client and the consultant. And NCUS leadership assumed that the audience would be receptive to the project. However, coaches and principals would need to be motivated by demonstrating value in the technical solution introduced. We really appreciated the challenges, though, because they gave us a better understanding in handling real-life challenges as a consultant. This project was centered on improving communication, and even though we were not able to face-to-face train all partners, we do feel positive about the project we have introduced them to. The product we delivered does address the communication needs of NCUS partners, and now that we have successfully trained Lynn Perez, she's a leader in the NCUS company, we feel confident that she will use the tools and demonstrate the value of the tools to the other NCUS partners. We're really grateful to Lynn for all of her hard work and her perseverance through this project. She's such a positive person, a great leader, and we really enjoyed working with her and the other NCUS partners. As I reflect on this project, I think back on one of the lessons that I learned while completing it. One that I will always take with me, and one that I will leave with you tonight. As consultants, we may think that we haven't accomplished enough for our clients, or that what our accomplishment that we accomplished um, small things. But in our case, small accomplishments reaped great benefits for the client. So I'm going to turn it back over to Melissa.
Okay, my biggest strides out of this whole project was definitely my work on communication. At the beginning, I was the main one that was in communication with Lynn for emails, and I realized that I didn't have the strongest way of saying things. I'm very passive and I'm very easygoing, so I would never give her really like a timestamp on anything, and I just kind of let things go very like openly. Um, Especially at the beginning of this semester when we really needed to get the ball going, I really needed to learn how to be a little bit more aggressive in the way that I was communicating with her, just to make sure that I would speak more clear and get my point across. So for me, the biggest thing was definitely the growth in communication.
So I'm going to talk about my reflection. Just one major thing in this relationship with the client. It's so important to keep an eye on your audience at all times. I mean, you want to turn your back on them and have them follow you, but sometimes you're going to be over some type of terrain where they're going to get lost. And it's important to keep your eye on them all the time, or you're going to lose some people unintentionally, or that you're going to go in a direction and they're going to go in a different one. So that's really important. And another thing is you've got to make it okay to not have everyone make it. Some people, when you're training large groups, there's going to be some people that just aren't going to follow you. And Carla reminded us of this, that you've got to focus on the people that are with you. So that wraps up our presentation, folks. We thank you, and so does David. Any questions? I'll be happy to. Any questions? I'll be happy to take them here in the chat.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that last parting Knight Rider picture. And does anybody have any other questions? I know that you asked some along the way. This was a project, and I thank you so much for your reflections, NCUS team, because I know this was a project that and what Yvette said was really important. We thought it was going to be a lot larger, but what it turned out being was something that I think is going to be extraordinarily valuable to at the NCUS team and the coaches, the principals, and so forth. When you stop and think about, if any of you have been traveling lately, you know how much time that takes. And it's also more and more expensive. To be able to have a tool like this, and to be able to feel comfortable working with a tool like this, and to have that kind of communication, and not to have to fly all over the country to be together, and yet have very effective communication, would be invaluable to NCUS. So thank you, NCUS team. You did a nice job with this.